Hello and welcome to Gamers Table, a podcast discussion of tabletop role-playing games, war games, movies, books, and various other game-related topics. Be warned, this show contains some explicit material that may not be suitable for all audiences. Hello and welcome to Gamers Table. My name is Eric.
This is Mike.
This is Dan.
This is Mark. And I'm Sean.
This episode we're going to discuss themed campaigns, themed characters. You can't have a themed campaign without themed characters, so that kind of goes hand in hand. Where everybody at the table comes up with a certain theme that we're going to do this.
A unified campaign concept.
Right. Rather than just your general, everybody sits down and makes their character and you kind of go off on your own directions, or just for the the dungeon crawl.
Wouldn't that count as a theme?
Well, I suppose it could.
Is Mike postulating that every campaign is themed?
I think so.
I was kind of postulating that myself.
Because generally,
because a D&D game is fantasy themed.
No, not. We're not talking about genre. Yes, if you boil it down to its essence, yes, every game.
Dungeon crawl would be the default theme of D&D, let's say.
Well, I was going to say, if you think of like old school D&D, you think of certain things. You think of a group of a fighter, a thief, a mage, a cleric.
The well-balanced group.
The well-balanced group who's going down in a dungeon to do whatever. That's that's your generic old school red box campaign.
Right.
Whereas so you fast forward to what we're doing right now, a pirate ship-based themed campaign.
Right.
Where everybody's on board, everybody is a nautical type on our ship.
Kind of like the idea of the Harry Potter and Everybody's Wizards.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
nice.
Never going to let that die.
I'm actually kind of looking forward to that.
Me too. Especially if we set it in Alcadim. Well, it's going to be even better.
It kills two birds with one stone for me because I've never played a wizard.
Yeah.
So that's one of my things this year I'm going to do. I'm going to play a wizard.
So you guys are planning on playing D&D where everybody's wizards?
Yes.
We're going to play something.
It may be D&D. It may be Hackmaster. It may be Rollmaster.
It may be Mutants and Masterminds.
It may be...
I might be staying home.
it may be... it could be True 20.
I like the True 20 system.
I think you could probably get a lot more versatility out of a True 20 type situation for that.
Yeah. So, but that in itself is a themed campaign. Well, let's talk about themed characters, because you can have a character theme within a non-themed campaign, though.
Having a good strong character concept and adhering to it.
Right. Like when we were talking about dragons, you were talking about the
my dragon themed druid character.
Right. And sticking with that theme, and it's hard to do, especially if you're doing a non-themed campaign, to stick to that theme. Let's say you're running book adventures and you want to be this dragon-themed character, and you're doing is book adventures or adventure paths or something like that. And you
may not have a job or a role.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Or
if there were some dragons here, I'd be kicking ass. But instead,
or gear.
Yeah. That's why a lot of people don't play rangers so much, because a ranger doesn't necessarily fit with whatever.
Yeah. If you're doing an urban campaign and you want to make a ranger, well, you can make the urban ranger.
Well, that's why
variants.
That's why they come up with those lame. Yeah, they come up with those lame kits.
Unless you're Ed.
That's right.
He always played a ranger.
This is true.
Well, some people,
At least that's how I remember it.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So all right, you root a themed character in a strong character concept. And then I think it takes a lot of willpower to be able to stay with that character concept.
It does.
Especially when it turns out isn't all that effective.
Because, well, yeah, especially if they're not effective at all.
Right.
Because then you're like, why am I doing this? I'm putting myself through all this. Everybody else is going... If you have a generalized character. You have a generalized fighter.
What I found whenever I started out with our Mutants and Masterminds campaign, and I was making the doc, the quote-unquote doc. I started out with a theme, but it wasn't a pre-generated character, and I didn't really have a strong direction, so he just kept getting more and more powerful, which was getting totally away from my theme. That's not what I wanted to do. So my discipline through that entire campaign was I was playing a guy who was essentially only using half of his build points because he was just too powerful to stick with the theme that I had created.
So sometimes themes can break the game.
It most certainly did.
Yeah.
And I didn't set out to try. It's just the way I wanted my character to use his powers was just too bad within the mechanics of the game. That's why he was awesome.
Yeah, my Batman themed character, let's just say, normal guy, gadgets, ended up on paper, the powers are pretty significant, but they cost a minimum amount of points because of all the restrictions that you put on them. Only being able to use them once, having them be removable because they're in a utility belt, which in itself is also removable. You end up with a lot of crap, and you're just a normal dude.
That may be part of the flaw of point-based character generation systems, but I know exactly what you mean.
And can you have a theme character without a point-based? Because essentially with a themed character, you're trying to manipulate it so that way your character is a certain way.
Yeah, you present yourself.
You can't do that with a 3D6 straight down the line D&D campaign.
You end up playing the Riri chef.
Right, you almost have to have a character concept derived from those rather than having an original character concept.
Well, like what I'm doing with Vic, my character concept, because I want him to be brash. You have to role play these things out,
right?
Rather than have it if you don't have mechanics to back it, or if your character's stats doesn't lend itself to being heroic. Well, you've got to inject that, And I use a cutlass, so I'm a pirate, right?
Plus, my motivation for having a 4 intelligence is basically I make really poor decisions, which is why I went to go rescue people with a bucket full of ball and chain manacles.
Sure.
We all underwater.
Right. We all know that was a clever ploy for suicide.
Well,
With themed characters, though, sometimes, like you say, they can break the game. They can also derail a game.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you're playing a non-themed campaign and you come up with a theme that is disruptive, let me give you, for instance, we're playing our hero game on Monday, and it's a street-level vigilantes game.
Punisher-type stuff.
I asked Greg made the characters for everybody. I asked Greg, make me a male version of Hit Girl. That's what I want.
That's cool.
I got so many points for being a kid that he could jack up all of my offensive values and all this other stuff. I almost never miss, and when I hit, I do a lot of freaking damage to the point where people are like unable to fight back if I hit them first. So in my mind, I'm playing this 9-year-old kid
who happens to be an unstoppable killing machine. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, a 9-year-old kid who is now raised in the foster care system because his parents are dead, and his foster parents are afraid of him. He's used to having adults afraid of him. It's like that kid from the Twilight Zone episode.
Yes.
I could hear their thoughts.
Right, exactly. I wish you away. So I'm thinking to myself, this kid has no boundaries, so he will do things on a whim. And first game session,
screw up our plans.
Yeah, so first game session, they're plotting on trying to get some information from these mobsters and whatnot. And I just walk in and go shink, shink, pull my weapons and start just brutally killing everyone.
Which I'm fine with, by the way.
Well, but it's obvious that Scott is not. But
which I'm also fine with.
Any disturbance in Scott, huh?
But
as many times as Scott's plans have f***ed up our lives. Yes.
So, but it was one of those things where after about midway through, I became consciously aware that this character is over the top, and the concept itself in the system that it's in makes him this unstoppable death machine. Now, obviously, if I get shot or something like that, it's going to be over with because that's just the way that game's set up.
All right. Well, that's the case for everybody.
But I think my initiative is faster than anybody. So
everybody else has more or less the same initiative in Europe.
And everybody's like 11, 12, 13, something like that. Mine's 21. So,
jeez.
Yeah, I'm way faster than most people. I also have like move by attack and all this other stuff that I can do. And I'm thinking to myself, this kid, he's a bowling ball and he's out of control. And somebody's got to rein him in.
More like the Tasmanian devil.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. He's like the Tasmanian devil.
With knives.
Right. And that was after game session 1. I realized this. So now I have to make a decision. Do I stick with my theme and continue on the course that I am and possibly derail the game, or make everyone else have to adjust to that character, or do I bring him back a little bit and not play the character concept that I had?
We'll find a way to compensate. We'll get you one of those court-mandated kid leashes.
There you go. Just fill him up full of Ritalin.
Yeah. Just sit there. But, it's just, and of course, I'm sitting next to Aaron, and he facilitates a lot of
yes, he does,
misbehavior.
Well, that's exactly what would happen. If you had a little death machine, as your sidekick, wouldn't you egg him on? Yes,
right.
Of course you would.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that would be a recent example of how a themed character. Everybody, if you make a character correctly, if you already have a character concept, then you're sticking to a themed character anyway.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about themed characters within a themed campaign, I find that more fun. I find it, you impose these restrictions that everybody has to follow.
Yeah, that's why that's really why I enjoyed the Mutants and Masterminds, the Hero High, so much.
Right.
Because everybody was on board, and we had this unified direction, and we were all high school kids.
Right.
And I thought it worked out really well. And that was the first time I think that had really been done. I know you guys had done, loosely some D&D campaigns like that.
Well, yeah, but there was. I wouldn't say that they were that restrictive.
Nothing that restrictive.
I mean, we've come up with ideas where we're like, okay, let's all play halflings or dwarves.
Which we've never done.
I
think the only time we
always threaten to do that.
Right.
And then somebody screws the pooch and then decides to make a human or an elf or something like that.
But
it shows how hard
the only
it
time
is.
that we actually pulled that off is when we all made bards for our first.
And that was as a lark.
Right. It was just the one game
That
session
was,
with our RPGA.
Yeah, our first RPGA game at Gen Con, the first Gen Con we went to in 2005.
Yeah. We're the band.
Yeah, we're the band.
Right. It was here we were like four guys with all bards. We had to get into a group with two other people.
As a matter of fact, I recently found that character.
Oh yeah?
Wow.
Yeah. I have no idea where mine is.
Ozzy Wordred. He was a dwarven drummer. Yes, Ozzy.
Only you guys would do this. Only you guys would do this.
And the funny thing about that one was, and I know we've talked about it before, was it was a 4-man group. It was 4 of us, right?
Yeah.
And there was a 5-person minimum at the table. So the one guy who would actually play with us was a wizard,
The heavy hitter.
right? He was a human,
I think my character was the singer Clover David Dale.
Clover David,
Yes.
Elven singer.
This certainly played to Mike's strengths.
And I had a gray elf lute player who was based on Steve Vai. Or was it Malmsteen? I don't recall.
So, but yeah, see that in itself would
Should have
be
played a lute with 3 necks.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
It's paradise. I don't know where any of this is going, but
Well,
I will say now, I have very little desire to play a character who's not themed. Because to me, that's the motivation. That's the fun of coming up with a guy. Otherwise, you're just making the same badass over and over again.
well, yeah. If
You're playing the same fighter with the same 2-handed sword that may or may not have a different name or whatever.
Jason.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Was that out loud?
oh,
Luckily,
this
he's
is
not
the
here.
man who's not here.
Yes, we should really turn this into a. Let's talk about Jason because he's not here to defend himself.
It's like there's a guy who's picked a themed character and he's stuck with it over different games.
Well,
This is true.
that's funny because when I texted everybody what the topic was going to be, his response to me was, "You suck."
Yeah.
That's my bread and butter.
Well, he can call in.
I mean, how many Vikings can you make? I mean,
how many times can you make Han Solo?
themes are archetypes,
In a sense,
and
yes.
so like that's what Shadowrun characters are, archetypes.
yeah.
And
I'm
try-
guilty
trying
there
to-
then because
Yeah, you would be the same as Jason at that point.
guilty as charged.
But it's not
I tend to
something.
play face men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not something, Sean. I don't think it's something that you do intentionally. It's just you. That's what you like to do. You like
Yeah.
to play the thief in D&D.
Oh,
you
yeah.
like to play the street samurai in Shadowrun. But you've already committed that you're going to do some different stuff this year. And
But even within Sam and even within Thief, you can theme it out from there.
Well,
like,
sure.
Like Cool Whip.
Oh, yeah.
Your theme is you're a guy with a whip. That's your thing. With all his
whips.
limbs so far.
That's- So far,
So
yes.
far. Well, yeah, I twisted it up a little too because I don't always play thieves. I play bards. I like playing the bard
Right.
because
But
Gideon
I've
was a
done
bard.
bards a couple of times. They're fun.
You joke about the bard D&D group we did, but one of the best themes I think we had out of Shadowrun was the band
yeah,
Yeah.
the band.
back in the day.
Green
There's a
Lightning.
reoccurring theme here.
We all want to be musicians.
I am a musician.
I'm a sound scientist. Does that count? I just made that up.
I'm a vocal stylist.
There you go.
Vocal stylist.
But yeah, I think that sometimes themes can become ruts if you're playing the same theme over and over again. Stepping outside of these ruts, you realize that you can play different themes of characters. So now when it comes to themed campaigns, the current one that we're doing is we always call it the Sea Princes campaign. It's a high seas campaign.
swashbuckling
Yeah,
campaign.
swashbuckling high seas campaign, and I think everybody's in agreement that it's a lot of fun because of the theme. You know, if somebody were to step outside the theme and make a character, it would be too distracting.
Well, I like it because it puts a